A very good evening. It's the 21st of March 2012, I beg your pardon, and you're watching KTN, your authoritative channel. I'm Joy Doreen Bira, and together with Eric Latif, we're here to bring you tonight's bulletin. Let's take a look at some of the stories coming your way just shortly.
The most natural time for elections to be conducted now in Kenya is the month of December 2012.
Teachers Union object to March 2013 poll.
I meant to talk about the ruling, not the judiciary.
I criticized election date ruling, but not the judiciary, says Raila. More Kenyan children are diagnosed with the killer TB infection. And fire consumes more forest cover in Mount Kenya as firefighters lose steam.
Very good evening. KTN Prime begins now. I'm Eric Latif.
And I'm Joy Doreen Bira.
Prime Minister Raila Odinga is now regretting his remarks termed by Chief Justice William Mutunga as disrespectful to the court. Last Saturday, Raila was quoted saying that the decision by the court that provided for March as a possible election date was a decision by a questionable court.
Raila's remarks came hot on the heel of IEBC's announcement of a March 4 election date for the next general election. Raila now says he did not mean to demean the court by his remarks, and he says that he was only giving his opinion on the court decision.
Raila has at the same time rubbished calls for him to pull out of the coalition government. It is KTN's Samogina with a report on the Premier's latest stance.
Is on the defensive after his statement perceived as rubbishing the Constitutional Court ruling on the election date for setting off confusion over the exact polls date.
2002, 2007, hii mahakama ambaye inaambia sisi ati kama uchaguzi ifanywe December, ingine ifanywe March, hii mahakama ina gani? Mahakama bandia.
But on Wednesday, the PM appeared to soften his stand over the judiciary, saying his comment was only on the court ruling and was not to discredit the judiciary at large. This coming just a few days after Chief Justice Dr. William Mutunga wrapped Raila's statement, saying it reeked of executive impunity.
I meant to talk about the ruling, not the judiciary. I have a lot of respect for the judiciary and the independence of judiciary, and I don't in any way want to demean the judiciary.
Raila has led an ODM onslaught against IEBC for fixing the election date in March 2013. Through his secretariat, the PM called for calming of nerves in the discourse surrounding the date, but maintaining he preferred a December poll. But Gishugu MP Martha Karua, a proponent of the December 2012 elections, appeared to offer the Prime Minister a quick fix measure, challenging Raila to quit government.
If indeed they want a December date, like we and a majority of Kenyans want, it is within his powers, within the powers of ODM, to walk out of government by October, on or before October, to enable Kenyans to have an earlier election date, and especially a December date.
Nonetheless, Raila is reluctant to take the option.
Urging the two principles to dissolve the government itself beats logic. Because if you dissolve a government, then how can elections be held? Where is the money going to come from for the Electoral Commission to perform the elections? What has happened in the past? That Parliament is dissolved, but the government remains as a caretaker government until the next government is sworn in.
Kenyans await an appeal ruling on the election date set for Thursday, with the hope that it will diffuse the anxiety and acrimony surrounding the country's next general elections date. Samogina, KTN Prime.
Now, one of the reasons why the Prime Minister is opposed to a March 4th election date is that he says it will disrupt schools. Now, what do you think? The Kenya National Union of Teachers, KNUT, and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, have sharply differed with Education Minister Professor Sam Ongeri on the effect of the March 4th election date on education. Whereas Ongeri is of the view that electioneering during the first term will not harm the quality of education, the two teachers' unions say that the quality of education will be adversely affected, and they want the elections held in December because schools will have closed in November under the 2012 revised term dates for schools and colleges.
Whereas the political leadership is engaged in wrangles on whether elections should be held this December or March next year, the two teachers' unions have now stepped in to express their concerns over elections and electioneering. Traditionally, schools and colleges have been used as polling and tallying centers. The elections bodies have also relied on teachers as backbones in supervising elections. Training teachers who have been recruited as election officials will take 1 and 2 months. In the coming polls, the IEBC plans to have at least 45,000 polling stations and 330 tallying centers. And perhaps of concern to teachers and their union leadership is that school terms for this year have been reviewed.
Apart from elections being held and us taking about 2 months break, we shall need another 1 month for the runoffs. So that will mean 3 months of students not being in school.
First term is a critical term in the education cycle of this country. It is a term that Form 1s report to schools. It is a term that registration of exams are conducted, a term that examination results are released.
The union leadership says students will be sucked into the electioneering mood as politicians crisscross the country seeking votes. This, they argue, will adversely affect learning in schools. Education Minister Sam Ongeri, who was attending a graduation ceremony at Meru Teachers College, argues elections will not affect quality of education whether they are held in December or March.
Whether they are in June, there will be disturbances of one nature or the other.
We don't want to cheat Kenyans that there will be quality and meaningful learning programs taking place in the months of January and even February next year, if elections are being done in the month of March. But we can give a guarantee that if done December, then we can assure you
They will have been affected by the elections, the campaigns, the euphoria, and so on and so forth.
The two teachers' unions are united over the December poll. They say holding elections in March will affect quality of education. But will politicians reach consensus? In the meantime, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission went on with its activities by carrying out 2 mock elections in Kajiado and Malindi to test the anticipated 6th ballot election under the new constitution. The IEBC targets to recruit 350,000 election officials for the coming elections. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
And that story brings us to the big question, and we ask, should the IEBC consider issues raised by the teachers' unions?
Please send us your comments beginning with a yes or no to our SMS number 8040. We'll sample some of your comments at the end of this live newscast.
Now, Anki Guta sheds more light on this issue on new school terms, which has featured prominently in the election date debate. The new school terms, which cut short the first 2 school holidays, also give students a 2-month siesta in a move that also slaps a complete ban on holiday tuition. Here's more.
The debate on the revision of term dates for schools and colleges has become more pronounced amid concerns that the March 4th general election would interfere with the school calendar.
The other day we changed term dates because of exams. Now we are changing term dates because of elections. We don't know what else will bring another reason for us to change the term dates.
According to the revised dates, this current school term will end on the 13th of April 2012, a week later than it initially should have. Second term will, however, start as earlier planned on the 7th of May 2012. This means that the first term break has been cut short to 3 weeks. Second term will end on the 10th of August 2012, again a week later than planned, and that again means that the August holidays have been cut short by a week. Third term will start on course on 3rd September but end 3 weeks early Friday on 2nd November 2012. This means that the December holidays have been expanded to last 2 months. There is concern that prolonging the first 2 terms will take a toll on students and lead to exhaustion, as the child's retention rate may drop because of that. The Education Ministry, however, says it has made those changes to give teachers more time to go through the syllabus in the 2 terms and discourage extra tuition which parents pay for. But another rule complicates the December holiday for parents. The ministry has banned holiday tuition. Holiday tuition has previously been criticized for overworking children and contributing to stress among adolescents. The parliamentary committee that was set up in 2008 to probe rioting in schools interviewed students who complained about an overload in curriculum and long school terms. Parents have previously complained that tuition fees were exorbitant and an extra burden on family finances. However, for some parents, holiday tuition served as a welcome distraction for those who simply would not be able to cope with the children at home for long periods of time without some form of supervised activity. Holiday tuition has also been a source of additional income for schools and teachers. But on the prolonging of 2 school terms, the Ministry of Education offers a peculiar argument, essentially saying that by keeping your child in school for a longer period of time over the first and second term, it will, and I quote, make the schools more child-friendly and give parents exclusive time to bond with their children. The Ministry of Education has also harmonized the national examinations period. Beginning this year, both the national primary and secondary education examinations will be sat on the 5th of November 2012. That is 8 months from today. The Education Ministry says this measure will create enough time for teachers to do remedial work with their students. But practically speaking, this may prove to be a logistical nightmare. Already, the security operation required to carry out any one of these examinations countrywide is massive and riddled with challenges. Attempting to distribute the KCPE and KCXE exam materials countrywide for exams that will be held on the same day may just prove near impossible. These changes come at a time when politicians opposed to the March 4th election date argue that it will interfere with the school calendar, as schools will still be in their first term. Several schools countrywide are used as polling centers during elections.
We are shocked and dismayed by the calendar that has been released by the Independent Electoral Commission because it failed to take into consideration the environment under which elections will be undertaken. First term is a critical term in the education circle of this country.
The Court of Appeal is tomorrow expected to rule on an appeal filed by a women's organization that challenged a decision from the Constitutional Court, which gave 2 possible scenarios for holding elections. For KTN Prime, I'm Ann Kiguta.
Let's move on from the elections debate. The aborted coup of 1982 could have been prevented. This is according to military officers who were sacked over the failed coup, who gave statements to the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. The ex-soldiers told the commission that those in power at the time should be held accountable for the events of the failed coup and those that followed after. Here is KTN's Edith Kimani with more on that story.
There are many stories about one Sunday in August 1982, the day that saw the words failed coup added to Kenya's history. Those stories detailing the events of the attempted coup were once again repeated to the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission by former military members fired for alleged ties to the coup d'etat attempt. The men, however, say that those in power knew about plans of a takeover and chose to ignore that information.
This could have been preventable. And those in authority and the previous remained aware of the impending coup before it took place.
The former soldiers say that following the botched takeover, members of the Kenya Air Force were arbitrarily arrested and detained for alleged participation in the failed coup. The men claim that they were never given fair hearings and were instead taken through a flawed judicial process.
So the court-martial was a puppet. And that's why we are saying we are blaming the lawyers in the armed forces
kijeshi ama majeshi.
And because I know they were following orders.
Kwa sababu mimi najua kwamba walikuwa wakifuata amri tu.
But there are sometimes orders
lakini wakati mwingine kuna amri
could be misleading.
The former military members now say they want government to compensate them for firing them. This is not the first time former Defence Force members have come out in protest over events that transpired after the attempted coup. Peter Karaoke, a former Air Force commander who was detained for participating in the failed coup, was awarded 7 million shillings in 2011 as compensation. Edith Kimani, KTN Prime.
Thanks, Edith. Now, tens and possibly hundreds of Kenyans go through their daily routine not knowing they are infected with tuberculosis. Latest statistics suggest that many of these are children. As the world waits to commemorate World TB, the government has released statistics that close to 11% of the current cases of TB are children, and the percentage could rise if efforts to address pediatric TB are not put in place.
Should appreciate our minister.
On the 24th of March, the world will mark World TB Day. But it's not good news for Kenya, as 11% of the total number of those with tuberculosis are school-going children, all with a high capability of spreading the respiratory infection to others around them.
This is a sad affair because children are naturally born without TB, and it is a clear indication that there is TB transmission in the family sector. We are now looking much more aggressively to see at what time do these children get infected.
As of 2011, the Ministry of Public Health and Sanitation registered a total of about 102,083 TB patients. In 2010, there were about 106,000 patients, and between 2011 and 2010, 4,000 patients have succumbed to the disease. The fact that out of 100,000 TB patients found in Kenya, 12,000 of them are children has forced the government to take a second look at their policies.
We want to find out, are they getting infected from other children, or are they getting infection from the schools where they go? This is something that the government is addressing, and recently, about 2 months ago, the government did launch childhood TB control guidelines in Kenya.
According to the World Health Organization, Kenya is the 15th country in the world with the highest number of tuberculosis cases. Sadly, the government admits that there's still a large number of those infected who are unaccounted for. These Kenyans either do not know they have TB or choose to keep their infection secret, mainly because the infection has been largely associated with HIV/AIDS.
They do not know that TB can be prevented and cured easily, even if one is infected with HIV. Because of this misunderstanding, many people have fears and prejudices from TB.
On World TB Day set for 24th of March, Kenya's slogan will be a call for a tuberculosis-free Kenya. Catherine Omwando, KTN Prime.
The Mount Kenya forest fire that has been on for the last 10 days is yet to be fully put out by the Kenya Wildlife Service, the Kenya Forest Service, the Kenya Army and volunteers who at the moment are at the Chogoria part of the forest where the fire is intense. However, according to the officials, they have managed to put out the fire in most parts of the Mount Kenya forest.
The Aberdare forest has also been on fire for the last 6 days, and firefighters and forestry officials have not been able to access the area. Here's KTN's Karon Derry with that story.
The raging inferno that has wreaked havoc continues to cause massive destruction despite efforts by the Kenya Wildlife Service, Kenya Forest Service, the Kenya Army, and a host of volunteers, both local and foreign, to combat it. The Mount Kenya forest has been on fire for the last 10 days, and as if on cue, the Aberdare forest also went ablaze and has been scorching for the past 6 days, and already 10,000 hectares of the Aberdares have been wiped out. However, closer home, what Kenyans may not have woken up to is the dire water shortage that might bite in days to come as an effect of the destruction of the 2 water catchment areas. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the Mount Kenya Tourism Circuit, Simon Washira, the almost certain water shortage will force Kenyans to dig deeper into their pockets.
Personally, we will not be surprised in the next few months if we hear a hike in our electricity bills, simply because our power is hydro-generated.
Aberdare is an important catchment because this is the source of the waters that are going to Nairobi.
As a consequence of the water shortage and disturbance of the rain patterns, a hike in food prices is likely to be felt.
If the rains are going to be affected because of the destroyed forest cover, and much of our food comes from the regions bordering the mountain region, then our food prices are similarly going to go up.
The Ministry of Forestry has, however, broken its long silence since the fire started. While marking the World Forests Day, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Forestry, Mohamed Wamachai, says the government has bought equipment worth 200 million that will be deployed to the affected areas.
The Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife has committed to secure over 200 million Kenya shillings in procuring specialized firefighting equipment to be used in the forest and wildlife parks.
The ill-equipped team has had a rough time putting out the fire, and more resources are needed to fight the menace that is threatening to overturn the entire local system as we know it.
Some of them going there with a G3 on their left hand and just a twig of a branch, and trying to put out the fire. What fire can you put with that kind of thing and you are high in the mountain? I mean, they are the way to fight fires of this nature.
Tourism will also be undoubtedly affected, yet it is one of the economic pillars of the country. The harsh winds and the dry climate have contributed greatly to the fast spread of the fire, that quick interventions are needed to wipe it out completely and save the forests. Carol Derry for KTN Prime in Nyeri County.
You know, to many people who are far from the Aberdare and Mount Kenya forests, it may sound distant until the effects are felt all over the country. Today, the world marks Down Syndrome Day, a genetic disorder that occurs in approximately 1 in 800 live births and the leading cause of cognitive impairment. While little is known about the disease, with most parents thinking that their children are mentally retarded, a school in Western Gishu County caters for such children amid various challenges. Mercy Kandia visited the children who, in their own way, celebrated the day as they strive to lead normal lives.
Wednesday morning at Tarakwa Primary School, the learning these children get here is not only a step to a brighter future, but to a normal life. Children varying in age, but with a common need. This is Tarakwa's special unit class. Children with challenges both mentally and physically.
In each and every learner, we know that each child has got a talent. It is my desire to develop and cultivate, bring it out.
Children with challenges both mentally and physically. Majority are children with Down syndrome, a disease that slows down the growth of a child. The two teachers here put extra effort on every child. The class may seem unruly at times, as most of the children here have a small concentration span, like Cherop.
I have always to be with her throughout. Because if you leave her, she will not concentrate. So it has to be one-to-one most of the time.
Today, however, is a special day as the world marks the 7th anniversary of the World Down Syndrome Day. For the first time in 2012, this day will be officially observed by the United Nations.
Down Syndrome Day! Down Syndrome Day!
They too are celebrating. A cake brought by one of the parents excites the children. The Kosgeis have a child here.
With going to school, interacting with other children, I've noted a bit of improvement. But the best has come out this year. He can say even a full sentence, something that had never happened before.
10-year-old Silas loves painting, with the learning materials being colorful and every lesson involving activities to keep them alert.
Oh, there are so many challenges here in class. One is absenteeism. Parents here maybe have not taken special needs seriously.
In the remote location of Tarakwa, little is known about such diseases.
Watu wakipata jambo kama hii, wazazi wengi na wengine watasotoroka ama nini, naona kama ni laana kwa nyumba ama ni nini kitu kama hiyo.
I feel something could be could be done about the situation. Otherwise, generally, the majority of parents do not even understand what is Down syndrome.
6 children here are from the same family. The teacher tells us they were stigmatized. Their mother brings them every day. Sometimes the same way they left the school is the same way they will return the following morning. High levels of poverty are contributed to parents leaving such children at home.
In a community that views children with special needs as a curse, here in Tarakwa location, Tarakwa Special Unit class, children like Betty find solace and a hope for tomorrow. Mercy Kandia reporting for KTN in Tarakwa location, Uasin Gishu County.
It's Down Syndrome Day, and that story is quite an incredible one. It just leaves the rest of the other disabled children out there, or children with disabilities out there, in quite a tight situation.
Indeed, and congratulations to the parents who take their children to that school, and also the teachers who are working in that school. Well, let's remind you a big question tonight. The 2 major teachers' unions, NAT and CUPET, have come out to oppose what Minister Samongeri has said about the March 4th, 2013 elections date. And tonight we are asking you, should the IEBC consider issues that have been raised by the teachers' unions?
You can send us your comments beginning with a yes or a no to our SMS number 8040. We will sample some of your comments and would like to sample some of them just now. There's someone here who is saying, yes, the IEBC should have considered the smooth running of the education program for 2013 before announcing the March 4 date as election date.
But there's a no here from Bernard Muli in Kikuyu, who says whether December, January, February or any other month, definitely there will be an interruption of some sort. Honestly, for the sake of security of this nation, a March date is preferable.
And Dr. Gina from Westlands, Nairobi, is saying, no, just like the Prime Minister, I agree that this is a wrong time. It's going to create more conflict. IT lacks foresight, common sense, historical realities, and moral courage, while Mutunga and the 2 judges should learn to live with the backlash from the people, and not to mention their disregard of the Prime Minister's position.
Ben Keraro in Kisii agrees that the IEBC should consider the issues raised by the teachers. Says absolutely, it's utterly naive to imagine that disruptions will not occur prior to the elections. The IEBC ought to have consulted all stakeholders. For once, we have a logical case against the elections body.
You're watching KTN Prime. We'll take a short break, but coming up is more news.
Mosquitoes can cause you and your loved ones sleepless nights, even when you're under the protection of a mosquito net.
Unlike ordinary treated mosquito nets, Olicid Classic nets are intelligently formulated with the insecticide incorporated into the fiber of the net. The release of the insecticide from the fiber of the net is controlled, allowing it to repel and kill mosquitoes for up to 5 years.
Providing you and your loved ones a peaceful night's sleep. The world's first World Health Organization fully recommended mosquito nets. Olicid Classic, available in all leading supermarkets.
Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan. From 29th March to 1st of April, come see how pros from all over the world do it at the 2012 Barclays Kenya Open at the esteemed Muthaiga Golf Club. Tickets available at Karen Golf and Country Club, Kenya Golf Union, Muthaiga Golf Club from 22nd March to 28th March, and at the gate from the 29th of March. Don't miss one of the most prestigious tournaments in Africa. Barclays Kenya Open 2012.
The Mombasa Polytechnic University College invites applications from suitably qualified candidates for master's, degree, diploma and certificate programs due to start on 7th May 2012. For application details, visit our website. The Mombasa Polytechnic University College, a center of excellence.
Escape to freedom. This is a clean, happy place, full of hope, where you can enjoy good health and new beginnings.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life. Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan.
Win big with Co-op Bank. For every 1,000 shillings you deposit into a personal account, or for every 5,000 shillings you deposit into a business account, you get an entry into the Ongeza Akiba Imarisha Maisha promotion. Win one of 3 brand new Toyota Hilux pickups, 6 Yamaha motorcycles, Samsung Galaxy tabs, daily cash prizes, or the grand prize of 5 million shillings. Ongeza Akiba Imarisha Maisha.
Nature's Gold Bread, made from festive bread's finest ingredients that are rich in fiber, so tasteful and so healthy.
Next on Lies That Bind.
Kama unataka tuachane, niambie na mapema.
Simon, you know what's been happening.
From that one phone call ni receive Monday.
I'm sorry.
Privacy. Why do we need privacy?
Si kama unajua tunapendana.
What?
Wewe unajua acha kujifanya tunapendana. Because if you're going to get married.
Are we?
What?
How dare you tell your mother that I'm not going to pay dowry?
So that's what this is about?
Obviously.
I don't want you to pay my dowry.
Nakwani pia mimi mnanibeba. Sasa simoje niambie baba Tish, sasa atajua nimeenda wapi. Na kwa baba Masiti wacha nikwambie kitu moja.
Nature's Gold Bread, high on taste, low on waste.
Welcome back. You're watching KTN Prime. Now we're getting some unconfirmed reports from Bamako, Mali, indicating that Foreign Affairs Minister Moses Wetangula is holed up in a hotel following a military coup that happened just 2 hours ago. Wetangula was attending an African Union meeting and was about to leave for the airport before the coup happened. We'll bring you more on this story as soon as we get it again. We're getting reports from Bamako, Mali that there has been a coup, and Foreign Affairs Minister Moses Wetangula is holed up now in a hotel in that city, as the coup happened about 2 hours ago when the minister was preparing to leave for the airport in Bamako, Mali. We'll bring you more on these as we get the details.
You can keep it KTN. Moving on to other stories, the head teacher of a primary school in Samburu in Kwale County is being accused of repeatedly raping and impregnating a 14-year-old from a neighboring school. The girl further accuses the man of helping her procure an abortion, which has resulted into complications threatening her life. Our reporter Esther Kahumbi spoke with the girl, who still remains afraid of coming out with the truth after allegedly being threatened by the said head teacher.
For fear of reprisal, she leads us where she deems safest for her to speak, a thicket about 1 kilometer from her school. At only 14 years old, she has already gone through the worst of what any woman could go through.
Nilifuata shambani. Baadaye kanifuata mkuu kulikuwa na choo. Baadaye kanifuata kule nyumbani. Mara 3.
The man she speaks of is a head teacher at a nearby primary school here in Samburu, Kwale County, who she claims raped and impregnated her months back, having attacked her 3 times as she walked home from school and once when she was tending her father's goats. Keen to ensure that the heinous act remained a secret, the said head teacher devised a plan for her to procure an abortion.
According to what this girl told me, she told me that as they were on their way to the posho mill, they met the headmaster on the way, and then the headmaster asked the girl whether the stomach was aching. Was there any stomach aches? Yeah. Then after that, he gave her a pill. And then, after Akamadwas Kamba, take this pill and the pains will subside.
This teacher, who sought to remain anonymous, was one of the first to know when her plan went awry. The girl started missing school, complaining of stomach aches and sometimes bleeding profusely.
They were together when all this was happening. Wakati akipewa hiyo dawa, walikuwa wote. Wakati akimeza, walikuwa wote. Hata kule kutoka kwa posho mpaka walipokuja nyumbani. The others are younger than her. So they came, informed the parent that so-and-so is urinating blood.
Even in the thicket, she still remains fearful of what would happen should her attacker know that she has gone public with the news. A district education committee is said to be discussing the matter for a course of action. But as is usually the case in such far-flung areas, such crimes always go unpunished. At only 14 years old, her life has already been scarred, and with such cases going unreported in such areas, it remains a vicious cycle that needs to be nipped in the bud now more than ever. Esther Kahumbi in Samburu, Kwale County.
Despite the heated exchanges that politicians and banks have had over the recent past, developments in the mortgage sector show that not all financial institutions are hell-bent on profiting from Kenyans through high interest rates. In a revamped series dedicated to the real estate, Fred Omulo looks at a new housing development on the edges of Nairobi that is selling units like hotcake, assisted by a mortgage loan whose interest rate is even lower than the central bank rate. Welcome to Homes First Reloaded.
Over the past month, Pine City Estate has been the real estate buzzword in both print and electronic media. Oak Park Developers has been aggressively marketing the gated community in Athi River that has attracted middle-class buyers who have embraced the concept it offers at relatively affordable prices.
The whole idea here being creating lifestyles, an organized neighborhood, and as you can see in my background here, a neighborhood with a space for children to play and some order. And the essence here being pooling resources and ensuring that what we develop brings out the best aspirations of modern urban living.
The housing scheme, whose buyers are almost entirely relying on mortgages to purchase their dream homes, seems to be defying market expectations, with many analysts having predicted that the high interest rates in the country would discourage home purchases. However, Oak Park has partnered with new mortgage broker, the Mortgage Company, to source funds for clients, with the interest rates dropping to 14%.
Phase 1 is 78 units, 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom. And out of the 78 units, we have sold 60. And about 80%, about 48 of our buyers are actually mortgage buyers. They're buying and they're getting mortgage facilities.
This raises the question of whether Kenyan mortgage firms are entirely sincere, since many still maintain high home loan rates that have created a huge market disparity, running from 13% to as much as 25%. Parliament is currently locked in a war with the executive on the one hand and the banking sector on the other over a proposal in the Finance Bill 2011 that seeks to cap interest rates charged by banks at 4% above the central bank rate.
My hope is that the central bank will be able to deal with whatever problems we have in the country as soon as possible so that we can go back to the rates. The equivalent of that rate before this crisis came was in the 6%. But at 18% is not sustainable.
The source of funds that a mortgage broker relies on to lubricate a project like Pine City is a great determinant of home loan costs, since non-banking institutions may step in. Reliable sources have informed KTN that a major player in the insurance sector agreed to bankroll the Pine City mortgages, leading to the extremely low rates. Home loans funded by local banking sources tend to attract relatively higher interest rates, while those sourced from non-banking or foreign entities, such as international mortgage firms, attract much lower interest, sometimes falling into single-digit zones. Variable interest rates have been labeled the devil of finance by some and the savior of pockets by others. What comes out clearly is that if an individual takes up a mortgage that has a floating rate, then it could potentially wipe out their entire earnings or alternatively lead to great savings.
As long as a new borrower negotiates for a variable rate of interest, so that when the rates start coming down, he's able to then benefit from the reduced rate of interest, I don't think there's any harm.
Whatever the pros and cons of mortgages, salaried employees in Kenya who have a significant disposable income seem convinced that it is the best path to the home of their dreams. For Homes First, I am Fredo Mulo.
And well, unconfirmed reports from Bamako, Mali indicate that Foreign Affairs Minister Moses Wetangula is holed up in a hotel following a military coup that happened about 2 hours ago.
Well, just to give you a brief look at what's happening in Mali, is that there has been tension over the last couple of months with Tuareg rebels who are advancing towards Bamako, trying to overthrow the government. Now, the Malian army has been trying to fight off the Tuareg rebels, but they've been complaining that they're poorly armed. But now these Malian troops are the ones who have mutinied, reportedly, and it's now confirmed that things are not looking so good in Bamako, Mali, because there is now a coup that's going on in Bamako. And Foreign Affairs Minister Moses Wetangula, who was in that country and he was just due to leave to the airport to come back to Kenya, is actually holed up in a hotel.
The Foreign Affairs Minister was attending an African Union meeting and, just like Eric said, was about to leave for the airport.
Keep it right here, KTN Prime. We'll be back after a short break.
I meant to talk about the ruling, not the judiciary. I have a lot of respect for the judiciary and the independence of judiciary, and I don't in any way want to demean the judiciary.
From 29th March to 1st of April, come see how pros from all over the world do it at the 2012 Barclays Kenya Open at the esteemed Muthaiga Golf Club. Tickets available at Karen Golf and Country Club, Kenya Golf Union, Muthaiga Golf Club from 22nd March to 28th March, and at the gate from the 29th of March. Don't miss one of the most prestigious tournaments in Africa. Barclays Kenya Open 2012.
2,500 kilometers, 5 pickups, 1 target. Don't miss the Nissan Challenge every day from next Monday at 8:30 p.m. right here on KTN. The Nissan Challenge. Get ready for the ride of your life.
Escape to freedom. Here life is full of flavor, where you can enjoy good health and some of the best food found anywhere.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life.
KTN Business Today, in association with CBA.
We can make the most of what we have. CBA, time for more.
A very good evening to you and welcome to today's edition of KTN Business Today. I'm James Kalani, and in just a while we'll be telling you about some of the reasons why oil in the country is so expensive. Stay tuned for that, but first of all, poor workmanship in the building and construction industry has cost the Kenyan economy more than 1.5 billion shillings in the last 15 years alone. Coupled with poor regulatory framework standards, the industry is now said to be lacking in professionalism, a factor pulling it down
The desire to meet the rising housing demand in the country over the past decade has seen the industry grow very fast. This, however, has come with its own negative impact, as cases of collapsing buildings have also been on the increase. This has largely been attributed to greed and poor workmanship, eroding the gains made in the country.
You want to ensure that best practices are engaged in the development of buildings. You want to make sure that the building is certified for safety.
Estimated at more than 150,000 annually compared to approximately supply of 40,000. The housing industry therefore requires robust investment as well as standards to provide quality, affordable and safe housing to all. It is on this basis that the best of the industry practice will soon be celebrated across the continent through the African Real Estate and Housing Finance Academy Awards, RF 2012.
The entrance of quack in the sector is what is usually a lot of the times responsible for building collapses, for buildings that are cracking, even before you start to live in them.
The awards are expected to provide developers with exposure to the global scene, opening up opportunities for them to make partnership with other players across the globe in the areas of real estate and financing. Selection of winners will be done through a nomination process taking place between the 22nd and 27th March 2012, and voting to be done by the entire industry, including experts from across the globe. The awards will be sponsored by the Standard Group, RF, HFC Bank from Ghana, Shelter Afrique, Pison House Company, and the Ghana Housing Finance Association. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
The Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited transition to merchant mode has been put off yet again. In a statement, the government has rescheduled the date from the 1st of April to the 1st of July 2012, this to allow for time for publication of legal notices by the government. KTN's Bonnie Tunya looks at the refinery's migration timeline.
The over 30-year-old refinery was initially supposed to transition into a merchant refinery by the end of last year. This was after the realization that importing and processing its own crude could give it a life. However, this deadline was initially pushed to April the past 2012, and the new July date seems to scare sentiments of the ambitious nature of the project. In the merchant mode now set to begin in the refinery, which is owned by the Kenyan government and Essa Energy of India, will import crude oil and process it, a move that will see the refinery participate in tenders to import crude oil alongside other marketing companies. Under the current arrangement, all marketing companies import crude oil, then process it at the refinery. The business model will change from a toll charging processing fee to a merchant refinery with petroleum products from crude oil refined at Mombasa being sold to marketers at the import parity price. Marketers currently import and process 1.6 million tons of crude annually. But with the government keen on transiting the refinery, all marketers have raised doubts to the viability of the merchant model. Additionally, oil marketers have raised claims to stocks owed to them running into hundreds of millions by the refinery. Bonnie Tunya for KTN Business Today.
Well, we apologize for the cheapy audio in that story. But moving on, Commercial Bank of Africa has launched a US dollar credit card into the market, giving customers convenience in handling their dollar-denominated transactions. This is part of its strategy to grow its business across the region. KTN's Michael Karanja with that report.
With the growth of businesses taking up dollar-denominated facilities, as well as the rise of international companies paying their staff in dollars, CBA is positioning itself to take advantage of the growing banking services. The customers have in the past had to convert their earnings into Kenya shillings, losing money in the process through exchange rate fluctuations.
This US dollar credit card is a first of at least 10 new products and services which CBA will be placing in the market during this coming year.
The bank hopes the new product will enable it cater for the growing needs of its customers, as well as give the bank a platform to strengthen its regional presence.
We do have operations in Tanzania at the moment. We are just submitting a license to set up a bank in Uganda. We've just entered into a partnership with a bank in South Sudan.
Dollar-denominated accounts are increasing in the country following last year's currency volatility. This has also been occasioned by robust import and export businesses that Kenya is currently engaged in. Michael Karanja for KTN Business Today.
Well, lots of people within and without the coastal city of Mombasa have been complaining about the deplorable conditions that this city is in. But now, private developers who have encroached on road reserves in Mombasa have been put on notice by the government. A cabinet subcommittee touring Mombasa today also warned the congestion at the port, as well as taking issue with the poor state of garbage collection in the city. KTN's Esther Kahumbi with those details.
By road, Mombasa town almost appears inaccessible to motorists who spend hours stuck in traffic along the Makupa Causeway. And even though intended for expansion, the land reserved for this has long been encroached by private developers, and now the government is sounding warning.
But wherever there is encroachment, we will not spare anybody, irrespective of the position of that person. We will clear the road reserve.
Although somebody may be holding a title to any piece of property in any part of the country, that does not mean that you can do anything with that piece of land. That land is subject to development control. And at least we have made determination that a lot of the developments which have gone on Makupa Causeway are unauthorized developments.
The congestion within the city originates from the port of Mombasa, a key entry point for imported goods for the East and Central Africa. This has largely been occasioned by cargo congestion at the port, now running into months, costing Kenya and its neighbors billions of shillings in losses.
We don't want to sell or destroy somebody's cargo, but if we are forced to do it, we'll be happy to do it. And I think that's probably I'm giving the last warning. If people will not remove by this weekend, they will not come to me for exemptions.
But it was not only the port and road issues that the cabinet subcommittee was at hand to address. The reputation of Mombasa as the key tourist city was also on focus. The town, the subcommittee noted, was a far cry of its former self.
It's suffocating tourism, it's suffocating trade. And I'm glad my colleagues have seen for themselves. We are going to present to cabinet next week, and we are going to give a comprehensive report of an action plan.
And I'll instruct my team to charge people who have not painted.
The town clerk has twice appeared in court to answer charges related to garbage collection in Mombasa. Esther Kahumbi, KTN Business Today.
Well, indeed, time for us to take a look at how the Kenyan shilling performed, and it was a tad stronger against the US dollar today. As we told you yesterday, and it was anticipated, the bond has been propping up the Kenyan shilling because of those inflows of the dollars. But another factor also contributed to the strength of the Kenyan shilling, closing these figures that you're seeing there of 82 shillings and 74 cents. This price was basically boosted by the fact that the tea auction started, and obviously tea, a major contributor of those much needed dollars to our economy, and the selling price across the banks of 83 shillings and 5 cents. In terms of the pound sterling, as you can see, they're also a bit stronger against the pound sterling. That's the Kenyan shilling at 131 shillings and 39 cents. The rest of the figures there, let's take a look at how the Nairobi Securities Exchange performed this Wednesday.
KTN Business Today, in association with CBA.
We can make the most of what we have. CBA, time for more.
Estate and Housing Finance Academy Awards will discover and celebrate excellence in real estate and housing finance in Africa. Join us for a networking and business-to-business cocktail on the 29th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. A full-day conference on 30th March featuring local and international speakers from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and later an awards gala dinner from 7 p.m. to midnight. Register now to be a part of these great events. For inquiries, call Lydia on +254 707 922 445 or visit www.rfacademy.org. Nominations deadline for the awards has been extended to 17th March 2012. For sponsorship, participation and registration, visit www.rfacademy.org or email info@rfacademy.org for more details. RF Academy Awards 2012, Discovering and Celebrating Excellence, 29th to 30th March 2012 in Nairobi, Kenya.
Make the move to portable TV entertainment with DSTV Mobile, including the latest edition, the amazing Walker Handheld TV. It's slim, lightweight, and super affordable. And with the same great DSTV channels as you get with the Drifter for a low monthly subscription, it's sure to fit your pocket in more ways than one. So join the Walker generation and experience the best of DSTV Mobile.
Walker is available at all multi-choice offices and their agents in Nairobi and Mombasa.